privilege to introduce to you a good friend of ours. My wife and I met Pastor Angelo and Annalisa through our Phil-Am gathering in the Assemblies of God. And our hearts get connected. You know, when you meet people, you get connected right away. Like there's like a link. And his heart is about reaching the community with the love of Jesus. And isn't that our heart here in Lynnwood? Come on, somebody. To reach our community with the love of Jesus. He has a very unique ministry. How many of you have been to Reno, Nevada? Reno, Las Vegas, Los Wages. No, it's like Reno, Nevada. There's gambling, there's prostitution, and his church is in the heart of the city. Imagine a very tough place to minister. A lot of homeless people, drug addicts, mental illness people, and prostitution. And sometimes he told me a story. Sometimes we didn't even can finish the service because there's drive-by shooting outside of the church. So that's the type of ministry. And this man of God did something out of the ordinary about compassion, reaching out to the community, when he spent 1 week being a homeless man, living on the streets. I showed the video to my kids and, Dad, do you think you could do that? I'm not taking a shower for 1 week. I tried that. Just kidding. And what he did, ABC News Network caught what he's doing in the community. And I just want you to watch the story of Angelo, Austria in Reno, Nevada.
2 local pastors are going to extreme measures to help the homeless in our area. They lived on the streets with them for a week, and now they're hoping the experience will help them change others' lives in the future.
Some toiletries. I got my Bible.
Bill Muck didn't bring much with him, but he says all he needs is in this bag. Bill is the senior pastor at Trinity Baptist Church in Sparks, and along with his friend, Pastor Angelo Austria of New Life Christian Center, the two set out to live on the streets of Reno for about a week, Sunday to Sunday. 4 days into it,
it's been rough. It's been exhausting. Sleep has been sketchy at best, and it's taken its toll.
Their goal, to gain a better understanding of the struggles our homeless men and women face every day, while many choose to ignore them. They say walking the walk was the only way to get them to truly open up.
If I go to them as a clean-shaven pastor, driving a nice car, carrying my Bible, they're not going to open up to me. But the way I look, the way they perceive me, being dirty, being, obviously a dirty old beard, I stink. They relate to me as one of them. And they have been opening up to us this week like I've never seen.
This is really a different world.
Pastor Angelo says he's met so many who are able to talk freely about their personal stories of mental illness, addiction, abandonment, and more, from those who choose to be here and those who feel trapped. But one commonality is the danger they all feel every night.
You are bombarded with violence, hatred, anger, frustrations, hopelessness, drugs and alcohol, mental illness. I mean, it's a different world.
These pastors know there's no easy fix for our city's homeless problem, nor are they trying to find one. What they have discovered is something more powerful within themselves.
It gave me more of understanding what compassion is all about. I think that I have that, but I think that it took me deeper.
And that's going to help them as they move on to the next step. Fast forward to the end of their week.
It was probably the hardest thing I've had to do in ministry. It really was.
After cleaning up and rejoining their families, the pastors say now the real work can begin, using what they heard and experienced to open up discussions within other churches and community organizations to see what they can all do if they work together.
What I'm hoping for is to be able to engage with a lot of people that has a heart for the poor and the needy. They just don't know what to do.
And the pastors say they're working on a list of specific issues that need to be addressed. They acknowledge it's not going to be a simple solution, but they want to help some of the homeless residents who truly don't want to be there and help get them off the streets.
And we just honor God in the life of Pastor Angelo Austria. We believe in bringing honor to the man of God, and as we honor the man of God, God honors us with the word and the message of God. Stand up on your feet, Charisma. Let's welcome to Seattle, to Lynnwood, Washington, pastors Angelo.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
God bless you. I just want to take a moment to honor your pastor and his lovely wife, Sharon. You guys, I just want to take a moment to honor you because of the work, the call that you responded to the call. You could probably do other things, right? But you responded to the call, and I want to say this: you got to be called to be pastors. You got to be called, and if you're not called, you're not going to last. And there's just so many pastors that are quitting every week. And but your pastors had been here for quite a while, and so I just want to take a moment to honor you both. I appreciate you for just loving God and loving people and loving your community. So awesome! Hey, so glad to be here. So you can come close to me because I'm a lot cleaner and yeah. My wife Annalise is with me, and my only wife, and we have 3 kids. Nathan, Faith, and Christine, and they're 22, 18, and 16. And they're really, really just amazing musicians. Amazing. And you guys are really blessed. I tell you that. God really had blessed this church with, just talents and gifts. And I've been to a lot of churches. I want to tell you, you know when the presence of God is there. When it's dead, when it's dry. I want to tell you, this is not it. This is, the presence of God was so strong in this place. So, and you know what too? So I've asked Pastor James, what do you are the pastor. I want to honor you. And so what is in your heart? And so typical of pastors, well, whatever God wants you to, yeah. So I'm like, okay. But it's so amazing how the songs that you were singing was actually the message I'm going to be giving. I was just standing there. I'm like, God, you're just so good of how you just connect the worship and the message. It's all a God thing. And so, well, let me tell you a little bit about who we are. So I'm Angelo, Austria. I'm not related to Richard, just to let you know. I don't know. Maybe we are. I don't know. So, but I just saw your post, and there's a Richard Austria. Is Richard here? Okay, so maybe not. So, all right. Anyway, there is. So my wife and I were called to Reno, and we were praying for San Diego. And God said Reno, and I said, no, God, San Diego. And God said, no, I'm calling you to go to Reno. And I said, you don't understand, God. There is no water in Reno. And how many of you have been to Reno? Again, let me see the hands. I hope not because of gambling. Just kidding. Just kidding. So anyway, so God, about 7 years ago, God called us to the inner city. And we didn't know what we were up against with. And so we studied the community, and we have about 500 kids in that community, all below the poverty level. No playground, nothing, and we're dealing with sex trafficking, prostitution, as Pastor James said. So there's just a lot of things going on, and so we began to do what we can. We basically said, I said to the leadership team, what do we have? Well, Pastor, this is all we have. All right, well, we're going to take what we have, and we're just going to trust God. Well, that's what we did. And so it's so amazing how we were just able to build a playground for the inner city kids. And we were able to raise $400,000. So, it's just amazing how God provided. 2 Baptist Church. 2 Baptist Church were the biggest givers. One gave us $50,000, and the other Baptist Church gave us $75,000. And so they're my Baptist friends. Yeah. So, yeah. So anyway, so the playground. So we built it in one day. And so we are a place of hand up, not a place of handout. So we don't give a handout. There's a time for relief, but that's not the only stage where you need to help people. There's a place where you need to take them to rehabilitation and development. But truthfully, we get stuck in relief. And we think that that's the only answer. It's not. And so when we stay on a relief stage, what we create is a culture of entitlement. And it's pretty obvious, right? And so we are a place of hand up. We're more concerned about their dignity than anything else. So we built this playground. We're doing an after-school club. We have a lot of things going on in our community. And then there's a problem of homelessness. Reno is growing since Tesla came, and it's out of control. Google came, Apple came. I mean, the city of Reno is insane. It's pretty insane how it's growing. But the problem is everything is going up. And so nobody can afford to live anywhere else, you know, and so they become homeless. And so one day I was having a conversation with God, and I said, what do we do with the homeless population issue? And God said to me, be one. Okay, wait. What did you say? Be homeless. Oh, bad, crazy idea. I don't think that's a great idea, God. Well, you want me to do what? Be one. Bad idea. I love to sleep in my bed. I love the comfort of my home and the cooking of my wife. What do you want me to do? Be homeless? And so then I became homeless for 1 week. And so my wife dropped me off Sunday. And then Tuesday, I was ready to go home. I mean, it was the bad week to go because of the fire. I mean, the smoke and the heat, and then violence, and then you got homelessness, mental illness, frustrations, anger, hopelessness. I mean, all of that, just a combination of all of that, and sex trafficking and prostitution. I called my wife and I said, I'm ready to go home. And you know what she said to me? Well, you know, honey, you made a commitment till Sunday. So does that mean, what does that mean? Does that mean I'm not allowed to go home? And she said, you know, honey, you made a commitment till Sunday. So what does that mean? I'm not allowed to go home? You know, honey, you made a commitment. And so I was getting mad. I was not allowed to go home. And so I stayed till Sunday. Yeah. And so that's just, it is the craziest thing I've ever done in my life. But life-changing. The main thing I really learned about being homeless for 1 week is this: everyone has a story. Everyone has a story. So it's easier for us to judge so quick. Get a haircut, get a job. Typical response of people, right? Because that's the first time we were walking in downtown. There were a couple of panhandlers, and so the guy behind us, get a haircut, get a job. So one day I was in a hotel casino waiting to get kicked out, because they love to kick out homeless folks. And so I was just there hanging out because I wanted to experience that, how, just getting kicked out. And so while I was waiting, another homeless person came in. And so I said, what's your name? Polly. Well, how old are you, Polly? 24. Well, tell me your story. Why are you homeless? He said this: when I was 4.5 months old, my mother, who was a meth addict, threw me in a garbage bin. And I was like, what? And then the person who found me was supposedly a very religious person, a Christian person supposedly. She found me, she took me home, but then she would chain me up for days. And then we would go to church as if nothing happened. And then all of a sudden God spoke to me: son, before you judge, just know everyone has a story. So what do you say to Polly? Polly, get a haircut, get a job? And he would look at you. What does that mean? What does that look like? Why? What do I do? He has no idea. And so everyone has a story. Everyone. So that was just a little bit of my experience. And I'm just glad to be home. My wife finally allowed me at my house. Yeah. So, so if you have your Bibles with you, the book of John chapter 10, verse 10 is where we're at today. I want to just inspire you today. That's my goal, is to be able to inspire you. John 10:10. And this is a promise for you. And I love this, the background. It's all about Jesus. And like I said, all of the songs that you sang today really is connected to the message that God has for us today. So John 10:10, it says, I came that they may have what? Life, and have it abundantly. So Jesus said, I came to give you what? Life. What life? Well, let's talk about that for a moment, because the Pentecostal, kind of our group, we tend to take things out of context. And so John 10:10, they would love to quote this. Hey, look, Jesus said, I have come to give you life and life abundantly. So this word abundantly is a lot of money. I mean, cars, beautiful homes, and blah, 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 right? It's all this material stuff. But that's not what Jesus was saying. He said, I have come to give you life. What life? His life. Well, let's talk about his life. We just sang the last song. His life that defeated hell, grave, and death. The life that rose from the grave. The life that is victorious. The life that is full of freedom. The life that is full of peace. The life that is full of joy. The life that is in authority. The life that is full of power and miracles. That's the life he said, I want to give you. And guess what? I don't want you to settle for anything less. I want you to experience it in abundance, right? And so the question is this. So sometimes we know people that you ask the question, why is your life like this? I've met a lot of people. Why is your life like this? It seems like you're not experiencing what Jesus had promised. Life, his life abundantly. Because you don't have peace, you don't have joy, you're not victorious, you're not living a victorious life, you're still stuck in your past sin, you're still stuck in your past, and there's no freedom in your life. So you go down the list, why? So you ask the question. So there's a gentleman that goes to our church. His name is Gil, and he's about 88 years old. And he owns the largest landscaping in the city of Reno. And one day we were having a conversation about a tree. And it's really interesting that a tree, if you're not familiar with the tree, so you got a lot of limbs or branches and stuff like that. And some limbs would not have any leaves or fruits. Then the other limbs or branches or whatever would have limbs and would have leaves and fruits. You wonder, well, how come some don't have any leaves nor fruits and some does? Well, here's what he taught me. The tree has a heart. Tree has a heart, and it's right in the middle of the trunk. So those that are not producing leaves nor fruits are only connected to the surface of the trunk. Those that are producing leaves and fruits are connected directly to the heart of the tree. So friends, if you and I are not connected to the life of Jesus Christ, we're not going to produce anything. Yeah, we're not. And so, friends, we must be connected to the life of Jesus Christ in order to truly experience the life he's talking about. And to really experience it in abundance, you got to be connected to the life of Christ. Like this morning, my wife and I just simply prayed, Father, I just want to thank you that we have the life of Christ in us. And let me and my wife honor your life. Let us honor your life. And let it manifest through charisma today. That's our prayer. That the life of Jesus Christ, who is so powerful, authoritative, powerful, whatever, joyful, full of peace, that it would manifest and it would minister to you. That was our prayer. And so there's really a difference about knowing God and knowing about God. People would say, oh, Pastor Angelo, I know God. And then we tend to do this. We scan people's lives, right? And you're like, so you said you know God, but how come your life is not in alignment with his will? So what you're saying is you don't know God, but you know about him. So I'll give you an example. So I could say, I know Sharon. Pastor James will say, you only know about her, but I know her because she is my wife. If I introduce, so Sharon and Pastor James knows Annalisa. So if Pastor James and Sharon would come up to Annalisa, I know you, I know Annalisa. Not really. They only know about her, but I know her because I'm the husband. So when we say we know God, do we really know him? Or do we know about him? Because if we know God, then there's a relationship. You're connected to the life, right? If you only know about him, then guess what? It's religion. You're only connected to the surface of his life. But the goal is to be connected to the life, not to the surface of his life, right? And so then we can say confidently, hey, I know God because of my life, the way I live my life, right? I'm pretty connected. So my wife, she was born with eye condition. It's called progressive myopia degeneration. So if some of you are in the medical field, you would understand this. And she's basically going blind. So she had 9 surgeries. Last year was the last one. And the doctors said to her and me, and by the way, he's the only doctor that could do this surgery. There's no one else out there. The United States is so big. There's only one doctor that invented this procedure that could help my wife. And so last year, when my wife was getting ready to go into this surgery, the doctor, is in his 70s. And so our prayer was like, God, I'm begging you, please keep him alive. And so that doctor said to my wife and me, there's nothing we can do. She's going to go blind eventually, and there's no hope. There's nobody else. Well, what do you do when you hear that? Well, you trust Jesus, right? You just trust Jesus. But I'm going to just walk you through the process of this, of Annalisa's journey and my journey. Can you imagine the thought of going blind? Can't imagine. And so she really had a hard time with that thought, and I had a hard time with that thought. And so her and I were really devastated about this. And so I was bitter, I was angry towards God. I would say something like, really, God? We've been serving you for so many years. My wife loves you. I mean, really? You're just gonna let her go blind? I mean, you are the God who has all the power to heal her. I mean, really? You're just gonna do that? You're just gonna do that to your daughter whom you love? That was my attitude. And then one day I was having breakfast, and so she came out getting ready to take my youngest daughter to school, and she came out crying. I was like, what's wrong, babe? And this is what she said to me. I'm just afraid. She's crying. I'm afraid. I'm going blind, babe. I'm so afraid. And then she took off crying. So I sat there. So I started crying. And then my son comes up, Nathan, who's 22. He comes up and said, what's wrong? Why are you crying? So I told him the whole thing of what mom did. So he started crying. So now him and I are crying. And so my middle daughter now comes up. And she was like, what's wrong with both of you? Why are you crying? Then I got to tell her what she said. And so I told her. Now she started crying. All 3 of us now were crying. And so now I was scheduled to go to Sacramento for a district meeting, and that day, and I couldn't leave her. I said, you're coming with me. She said, no, I'll just stay. I cannot let you stay home like this. You got to come with me. You're coming with me. And so I dragged her with me. And so during that time, so the following day, my wife stayed inside the room, and I went to the meeting at the district office. And while she was there, she had a great conversation with God, right? And so on the way back home, on the way to Reno, she turns to me and looks at me and said, honey, I just want to let you know I had a great time with God. And I was able to surrender everything to him. And I looked at her, good for you. I'm not going to surrender whatever. No. And so that was my attitude. I was really bitter and angry. And so one day, I was driving to the gym. I know it doesn't look it, but that's okay. I only drove there. It doesn't mean I went inside, but at least I could tell somebody, hey, I went to the gym. It doesn't mean I went inside. And so anyway, I was driving, and then I was just mad. And you know what the father said to me? Son, you know what's your problem? I said, what? Your problem is this, is that you think your love for your wife is greater than my love for my daughter. And just to remind you, son, before she became your wife, she was already my daughter. And guess what Angelo did? Angelo began to weep like a baby. And I said, God, I surrender Annalisa to you. And so today, friends, because of the life of Christ, we're able to walk in freedom. It doesn't matter what happens. We just know that we're able to walk in freedom. And my wife would honestly say to you, I lose my sight or I keep it. And of course she's believing. We're believing, and her prayer is, God, no, I'm believing you that I'm gonna see my grandkids. We don't have any yet, but she's speaking prophecy. And so anyway, no, that's our prayer. But then we're just walking in freedom. We're full of joy and life. Yeah. And about a couple of months ago, I came up to her and I just held her face and I said, man, you just inspire me. Because in spite of what you're going through, and by the way, that's just one issue, and there are a lot of other issues that the doctor just doesn't know what's happening to her. But in spite of that, she's just full of life. And I said to her, you inspire me. You do. I'm just amazed of the life that you have. It's because of the life of Christ. And so, I'm just going to, Pastor James, can I just borrow you for a second? Can you bring that tissue? I might cry here for a second, but come here for a second. I'm just gonna use you for a little bit because I love illustrations. And so hold that for me tight, okay? Tight, please. So the first thing we need to do to experience the life of Christ is this word surrender. Surrender. That's the first step to experience the life of Christ. What happens is this. This is our idea of surrender. God, hold it tight, Pastor. God, I'm surrendering this, God, to you. No, seriously, I'm surrendering this to you, God. In fact, my addiction, I'm going to surrender it to you, God. I really want to surrender it. Oh, God, my marriage problems, I want to surrender that to you. But God, I really want. And God is saying, son, I want you to know that's not surrendering. Surrendering is this. You let it go, and you give it to God. Thank you, Pastor James. That's what we need to do, don't we? Is that surrendering is not just a bunch of, but it's letting go. And the second thing is this, is a life of obedience is the next thing. How do you get connected to his life? Is a life of obedience. John 14:15 said, Jesus said, if you love me, you will what? Obey my commands, right? No one can remain in his life without obedience. You can't. And then the third thing is love for his word. Love for his word. In the book of Psalm 119 tells us this, I shall delight in your commandments. This is what the psalmist is saying, which I love. Can you just imagine the intense love for God's word? I shall delight in your commandments, which I love, and I shall lift up my hands to your commandments, which I love, and I will meditate on your statutes. Just imagine the love for his word. Now, so if you're a Christian in the Middle East or China, there's really a problem with having an actual Bible because of just the nature of persecutions and things like that, and a lot of the churches in China would have underground churches. In Middle East, man, if they find you, you'll be dead. And so missionaries would find a way to bring in Bibles. But here's the thing. As soon as they would get a Bible, the Chinese people would take a piece, like part of the Bible. They would rip it, and they would keep that. And then they would just distribute, all the Bibles, and they would just rip one piece of it. And then the missionary would teach from the Bible, and then they would just listen to that, and they would just memorize that. They would just take it to heart. And so persecution comes, guess what? They know the word of God in their heart. And they have a love for the word. Isn't it interesting that a lot of us, we have a lot of the Bibles in our homes and easy access. By the way, that's my time. I only have half an hour, so I got 8 more minutes. But we have it here, don't we? It's easy access. But isn't it interesting that the Chinese or the people in the Middle East would have a deeper love for the Word of God than we do? It's just interesting, isn't it? And so to be connected to the life, you got to have a love for His Word. And then the next thing is this, is love for His presence. You got to have love for His presence. Remember in the book of Exodus chapter 33, when the people of Israel just really want to go to the promised land. All they want to talk about is the promised land, the promised land, the promised land. And so finally God said, is that all they want? Is that it? The promised land. They don't want me, but they want the promised land. You know what, Moses? Just take them. Take them. God was angry. Just go. You know what Moses said? In verse 15. God, I'm begging you. If your presence is not going to go with us, I'm asking you, you better not send us there. Don't send us there. If your presence is not going to go with us, I'm asking you, I'm begging you, we better not go there. Isn't it interesting that the people of Israel wanted the promised land, but Moses wanted the presence? Would it be possible for us that we want, like what Sharon said, where is your life built on? Money, wealth, success, career, all of that? Is that what we're pursuing? Or do we want the presence? Because what good are the wealth, the money, success, career, all that stuff? They're not bad. But what good is it if the presence of God is not in your life? So love for His presence is important to be connected to His life. And then the last thing is this, is faith. Bible says, without faith, it is impossible to please God. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. So you want to please God? Have faith. So, I got about 6 minutes. I'm going to tell you a quick story. So, isn't it interesting that when the disciples were in the boat, and Jesus was walking on water, and the disciples saw Jesus and like, whoa, a ghost, and they freaked out. And Jesus said, it's me. Don't be afraid, it's me. And Peter said, Jesus, you're walking on water? Can you ask me to go? I really want to walk on water. And Jesus said, come. So can you imagine? Here we go. Can you just imagine that moment? Now, we're going to pause. What were the 11 doing? Oh my goodness. Bro, James, look, Matthew, he's walking on water. Oh my goodness, he's walking on water. If I was there and I saw Peter walking on water, I'd be like, hello, Jesus, I want to walk on water too. How come the 11 just sat there and watched this whole thing, Peter walking on water, and nobody else dared to say, ha, 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 I want to walk on water too? Can you just imagine all of them just dancing away, walking on water, probably running? I would be just crazy walking on water. They probably will call me Angelo crazy walking on water, right? Or something. I don't know, but can you just imagine? But the 11 just said, ha, 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 look at Peter. And nobody else dared to go. And so my wife and I really had a lot of faith walk. And especially when you get called to the inner city. You got to be called to go to the inner city or else you won't survive. Our church, we call our church Crazy Church. So some people are crazy for Jesus and some people are just literally crazy. So one day I was preaching, and so we had 4 mental ill folks. And so one guy was talking, someone on the wall, like by himself, and another guy was doing his own thing, and then another guy was doing his own thing, and then one guy stood up and said, I have a question. Not right now. I'm preaching. I'm talking, but I'll talk to you after service, okay? And he was like, oh, okay. So he sat down. Well, 5 minutes later, while I was talking, he got up again and said, I have a question, buddy. Not right now, because I'm talking. But I'll be done in 15 minutes, okay? So we'll talk after. That's our church. But we love it. Because our DNA is this: unconditional love. Everyone matters. Everyone matters. So if you go to our church, you'll love it. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah. But here's the thing. We began to learn a lot of things, like the needs of the community. When we got there, God said to me, I'm going to give you that property to build a playground. I'm going to give you that property to open up a resource center. It's a place to hand up, not a place to hand out. I'm going to give you that apartment. I'm going to give you this. So God just began to tell me he's going to give me this. We didn't have any money. We didn't have any money to buy any properties. And so then 2 properties became available. And God said to me, go. But God, I don't have any money. Sign it. And so the property, the 2 properties, we needed to raise $250,000 in 90 days. I signed the papers. I have 90 days to come up with $250,000 to purchase just the 2 properties. And so I signed the papers. I'm crazy that way. So it's one of those things like, okay, God, I'm going to step out. I signed the papers. You're crazy. You have 90 days. A month into this, you know how much we have? $5,000. Now look at this. That's not even worse. One brother gave us a $500 check. He didn't have any money in the bank, so it bounced. And then we ended up paying for the bank fees. So now we're minus 500 plus or minus the fees. So now my 5,000 is now 4,000 something. This is 30 days. I have 2 more months, 60 days, to come up with the rest, which is 204. I'm not good in math, something. Anyway, so it's crazy. And so I was doubting. And a friend of mine who, a Pastor Otto, him and I pray every week. And so I said, man, God, yeah, I did something crazy. Why did I sign that paper? I don't think I've heard from God. So I began to doubt. And so you remember Peter when he sank? Man, I felt like sinking. And so I said, I'm crazy. Why did I do this? And then Pastor Otto said, well, how did you get your church building? Well, you know this story. Yeah, I know this story, but I want you to tell me. So the way we got the church building, I don't have the time to tell you the story. From 795, we got it for 175. It was God's miracle. And we didn't have any money, too. And then he said, okay, good. Well, how did you get your vehicle that you're driving now? So the quick background, my wife and I used to have a real estate company. Well, when the market crashed, we lost everything. And so we were paying our debt. And so when my car finally gave up, I drove it for about 250,000 miles. It's done. And so I didn't have a car. So my wife and I just prayed, God, we need a car. And so there's a lady we've never met. And the lady, God said to the lady that we've never met, there's a pastor in the inner city, buy him a car. So I get this check in the mail. And it says on the note, this is for the pastor to buy him a car. And so I tell Pastor Otto that. Wow. Good. We're going somewhere. Angelo, we're going somewhere. Well, how did you get your parking lot? Our parking lot is a mess when we bought the building. And it would cost us $100,000 to fix it. Even if I have the $100,000, I'm not going to spend it to fix a parking lot. That's a lot of money to waste. When so many kids or families are in great need. So anyway, well, I said, God, we need a new parking lot. So somebody spoke to this man and said to the man, that church there, go fix the parking lot. So my wife and I, on the way back to from our vacation, we see this. Our entire parking lot was a mess with all these tractors. They were fixing it. And so Pastor Otto, my friend, he said, so dude, what's your problem? And I looked at him, I said, I don't have any. And so you know how Jesus pulled up Peter? He pulled me up and said, come on, let's go, God. Guess what? In a matter of 2 months, we raised $268,000. Faith matters. There's no way in the world that you could please God. He said it. Without faith, you can't please God. And so, here's the thing, friends. How do you connect with the life of Jesus Christ? It's simply this. It is a surrendered life. It is a life of obedience. It is love for His word. It's love for His presence. And it's faith. God bless you guys. Thank you so much.